How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Well, strap in, folks, because we got a wild ride today. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, let's just break down last night before we get into anything else, because it kind of sets the table for what we've got. Stop believing the people on social media who are telling you that the Miami race was a massive disaster for the GOP, because first, yeah, it's true that the GOP has held Miami for 30 years, but also it's nonpartisan. So it's Republican in air quotes. They've been pretty liberal Republicans, and the Republican, who's a good guy by all accounts, lost to a Democrat last night. It's the first time in 30 years the GOP has had this setback. So it's not the massive bloodbath, in fact, because people are confusing Miami for Miami-Dade County. Had it been a blowout of Miami-Dade County, it would have been a bigger proportion. However, there are still problems. The bigger problem for Republicans actually came in a state legislative seat in Georgia last night. In Georgia, there is a lake called Lake Oconee. It is a very wealthy part of the state of Georgia. It is highly Republican. Donald Trump won it by about 20 points. In fact, in that area is a place called Reynolds Plantation. They don't like you to say plantation anymore. Reynolds Plantation. It's beautiful. It's got lots of great golf courses. Has a Ritz-Carlton. A lot of the Masters players actually will stay at that Reynolds Plantation and helicopter over to Augusta. A lot of the wealthy businessmen will as well. It's a beautiful place. I love going there. Too rich for my blood, but it's okay. They got great restaurants in the area. There's a small, sleepy town of Greenwood, Georgia that's there, and the district stretches to Athens, Georgia. And, well, the Republicans should dominate. They had a special election last night, and the Democrat won. Republicans simply did not show up. In Miami, Republicans showed up, but the independent voters overwhelmingly went for the Democrat. In Lake Oconee, the guy who won last night lost the same election in November of last year with only 31% of the vote. And he blew a new Republican. So the Republican who got elected last November has resigned from the state legislature in this heavily Republican part of the state. Had the Republican against the Democrat who lost with only 31% of the vote last November, won last night. He'll serve one stint in the state legislature before he's got to run again, and will probably lose in the midterms because it is a very Republican election. But the problem is that the Republicans are not showing up. And where Republicans do show up, the independents are showing up for the Democrats. This is a real problem for the GOP, a real and genuine problem for Republicans nationwide, that in special election after special election after special election, the Republicans aren't showing up. And when the Democrats show up there, or when the independents show up, they're voting for the Democrats. We can problem solve this and fix this. And that's what I want to do here. But we have to have an honest conversation about the lay of the land in order to be able to problem solve the situation. Because we do have real problems, and it seems more and more like the Republicans don't really want to solve the problem. They're becoming very much like the Democrats became, and they're putting their head in the sand. They are looking behind. They're looking in the past of the Democrats, convinced that everyone still hates the Democrats. And by the way, everybody still hates the Democrats. They do. They hate the Democrats. But they're starting to hate the GOP too. And that is the problem. They hate the Republicans. They hate the Democrats. They hate everybody. And no one seems to be listening to them. And the result, of course, is that the voters are swinging back and forth, left, right, left, right, left, right. They're trying to find someone who will take their concerns seriously. They thought they had that person in Donald Trump and the Republicans, and now they're mad at Donald Trump and the Republicans. In large part, if we're real honest about it, not because they really did a whole lot, but that's the point. They didn't do a whole lot other than tariffs, which people don't like. But they said they could get it fixed and got it fixed quickly, and now Donald Trump is giving them lectures in ways that the voters themselves don't like. So in Miami, this gets to a larger point that you, the Republicans, you got to figure this out. Whether you like it or not, you have to accept and acknowledge reality. And if you can accept and acknowledge reality, you can find a path forward. And today, that's what I want to do. I want to have real conversation on accepting reality and what reality looks like so that Republicans can find a path forward for 2024 that mitigates damage. And to begin, you have to accommodate a couple of issues. Number one is that people don't like the tariffs. They don't. You may think they're fine. You may think they're not a problem. The reality is that the only major thing Donald Trump has done that Donald Trump continues to tout as having a positive impact are the tariffs. And because people don't actually feel like they're having a positive impact, they're blaming the tariffs. For the sake of argument, say the tariffs have nothing to do with it. The people think it does, and so therefore it matters. And the president's comments on the campaign trail just don't particularly work. In fact, the president saying this last night in Pennsylvania really rubs people the wrong way. Well, there we go. We're having issues with the audio. That's okay. Donald Trump last night essentially said, again, this talking point he's had in the past, you don't need all these dolls. You don't need dolls. You don't need, you can have $1, $2. You don't need $30. In China, you can have 30 pencils, but you get 2 pencils. Here, you can get 2 pencils and you can get $2, and you should be happy with it. Americans don't want to hear that. Now, there are some people who say, well, you know, that this lax consumerism is what got us into this problem. But that's the default for America. And no one has made the case to Americans why they should have to give up the standard of living they've been accustomed to. And that's essentially what people around the president are trying to argue, is that you got to give this up. This has been wasteful. This has been bad for us. You got to give it up. But no one's made that case. You've just got the president on stage saying you should only need to get $2 for your kid, not $30. He gets a ballroom, you get $2. China gets NVIDIA chips, you get 2 pencils. This actually is, at the end of the day, a messaging problem for Republicans. It's not just a messaging problem for the GOP, though. It is also a problem with the actual application because people don't feel like they're being helped. The president last night also said that tariffs have actually helped farmers, made farmers wealthy. If the tariffs have made farmers wealthy, the farmers shouldn't need a bailout. I don't know any farmer who feels like he's benefiting from trade policy right now. I'm sure anecdotally there are 1 or 2, but the data shows farmers are mad. They don't want to have to bail out. They want to be able to sell their goods. They can't. We were promised China would buy the soybeans. They made a big deal out of it. China hasn't actually bought the soybeans, but they're going to get the NVIDIA chips. And people are mad. And Republicans, they say, I love this guy, 85% loyalty to Donald Trump, but they're not turning out to help his agenda. They like him. It's the agenda that's the problem. They don't like the Republicans. Yesterday, I played you the clip of Susie Wiles. She says, we're going to put Donald Trump on the ballot everywhere. The Democrats say, please do. Ladies and gentlemen of the United States of America, I need you to hear me. Don't hate me for telling you the truth. Next year's going to be bad for the GOP if the president can't get away from this defensive tariffs people don't like unless he's able to make the case to them truthfully they're helping. And thus far, he's telling them that we're doing a farmer bailout while also telling them in the same breath that the farmers are wealthier than ever. They can't need a bailout if they're wealthier than ever. You can't tell Americans you're buying too much. You may think it's true, but it's a terrible message. And then you have to grapple with the underlying problem that happened in Miami last night. Something I told you yesterday was probably coming. Hispanic voters who voted for Donald Trump in 2024 turned on the GOP last night. I have a friend of mine, one of those I've never met in person. In fact, I was at In-Town Golf last night in Atlanta, sitting there and sat next to a guy I'm friends with on social media, have known and interacted for years on social media, never actually met him in person until last night. Great guy, and same with Giancarlo, who lives in Miami, who knows Miami politics, who understands the situation. And he makes several points. One, Miami's not as red as some people are saying. Two, it was not a good night for the GOP. The new Republican electorate is so focused on national politics, they don't show up for local elections. And three, he says, every week local media runs a story on immigrants who are working through the legal system to adjust their status and ended up detained or deported. This is bad for many reasons, and it's terrible for the Republican brand. A lot of us have been pointing out for months that illegal is being applied far too broadly, encompassing people who entered via lawful means. You cannot put a Cuban migrant who arrived on a flight through a program established by the federal government and who has a legal right to adjust pursuant to the Cuban Adjustment Act in the same bucket as gang members and cartel operatives who cross the border undetected. Hispanics understand the nuance even if you don't. Fourth, people in Miami are generally fed up with the effort to try to turn Miami into the new Los Angeles or New York or some tech bro capital of the Sun Belt, and local Republicans didn't seem to care, and national Republicans feed into it. And fifth, the Republican candidate Emilio, a good guy, well-respected, to beating the Democrats, didn't run an AOC firebrand. They also mobilized. The Republican machinery did not. And even if they had, I'm not sure it would have changed the outcome, given the new Republican coalition in South Florida. Republicans can't keep counting on Democrats to put in bad candidates. One last thought. I've seen some people try to spin the results as an extension of a feud between DeSantis and Trump. That wasn't it at all. I want to focus on this illegal immigration point because it came up yesterday. You can say round them all, and I want to be clear here, and I'm not belittling, I'm not trying to be insulting. You need to understand the basic political point here. You can take the position of round all of them up and deport them. The guy who came here yesterday and the guy who came here 30 years ago. I don't question your argument. It's a valid argument. Round them all up. Hispanic Americans who voted for Donald Trump last year want to round up the gangbangers, the criminals, and the people who came here during this wave of illegal migration from Joe Biden. They don't care about the people who came here 30 years ago. You have a coalition with those Hispanic voters now. If you betray their trust and say, you know what, we're going to round up everybody, including the people who came here 30 years ago, we're going to get them all out of the country, those Hispanic voters are going to say, okay, I'm no longer a part of your coalition. And now you have to go find the voters to replace those Hispanic voters. That's on you to do because you made the decision to expand the parameters of deportation beyond what Hispanic voters thought they were getting. Perfectly fine. You can love the position. That's fine. I don't care. What I care about is you now have to replace a coalition partner because now you're in the minority. Those people are either going to sit on the sidelines or they're going to go back to the Democrats. Hopefully they sit on the sidelines. The question is, where do you add to your coalition? Do you go with the white suburban wokes? Do you go with the secular white people? Do you try to get more black voters to come in? You got to go find a replacement, or You go back to the gangbangers, the criminals, and the people who came over in the Biden wave, and you ignore the people who came before. It's your choice. I don't care what it is. Don't be mad at me for explaining that situation to you. It's your choice of who you target, but who you target depends on your coalition. And Hispanic voters in South Florida said, we don't feel like we're a meaningful part of the coalition anymore. And last night they bolted from the GOP in South Florida. You got to decide who you want in your coalition, and that determines your policies. You got to understand that.
I'm a mattress snob. I travel a lot. I want a good night's sleep in my own bed. I miss my mattress when I'm gone, and I discovered Brooklyn Bedding, and I love them. I was a little bit hesitant for an online mattress until I tried Brooklyn Bedding, because you get 120 nights to try it. And I wanted a mattress that wasn't just memory foam, feeling like I'm laying in mud. I wanted one with the support of the coils, and they are not only 100% fiberglass free, but they've got great sturdy coils for a firm mattress, a great night's sleep, and they offer a 120-night comfort trial. Love it, or they'll help you return it or swap it. Go to brooklynbedding.com, use promo code ERIC, E-R-I-C-K, at checkout to get 30% off site-wide. Not available to anybody else. You got to use my code, ERIC, brooklynbedding.com, promo code ERIC, for 30% off site-wide. Support the show. Let them know we sent you after checkout with that promo code. It's brooklynbedding.com. The promo code is ERIC. Handcrafted mattresses in the United States of America, and they're fantastic. brooklynbedding.com.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very, very happy to have you. Now, listen, I want to be able to walk through the problems, because I think if we walk through the problems, we can diagnose some solutions as to what we actually do and how we proceed. So this is not a moment to be frustrated, although we can be, with the messaging coming from the White House, the president, whoever. But there are some strategies that can be deployed by the Republican Party to be able to mitigate damage next year, so we do not have to utter the words Speaker Jeffries. But Republicans are going to have to participate in this, and Republicans are going to have to figure out whether or not they can do what must be done, whether or not they can make changes. And to a degree, given the president's defensive tariffs, I don't know whether he's willing to walk it back. Every Republican should get on their knees and pray that the Supreme Court saves them from themselves when it comes to tariffs. But there are strategies that can be deployed. Let's be thoughtful about how to move forward. Let's be thoughtful about how to, because we can, and by the way, you can't at this point keep saying the special elections don't matter, because from Mississippi to Georgia to Miami to New York to Virginia, they're playing out the same way everywhere. So you have a warning sign, you got a siren going off, so let's figure out how to respond to it. You've got sirens going off in the financial industry right now constantly. That's why Swiss America, a trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years, has been warning people about a secret war on cash that's out there, and they would love to help you save on your retirement and finances. You can get their report, The Secret War on Cash, completely free. All you have to do is call or text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. The report takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save on your retirement and finances. You can go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK, or 800-289-2646. Just text my name, Eric. You can call them at that number if you want to talk to a human being, 800-289-2646. You can call them, say Eric Erickson sent me, or just text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. You'll get a link. Follow the link, put in your information, or just go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric today. Let Swiss America help you get their Secret War on Cash report completely free. That Secret War on Cash, it applies to crypto as well. Don't think you're safe there. 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. So I got all this audio from Trump's speech, and I'm broadcasting from my affiliate WOKV down in Jacksonville, Florida, doing situations. Everybody, all the air checks, everything went fine until the moment I came on air and suddenly have no ability to actually play any of my audio, which is very weird. So you're just going to have to listen to me paraphrase the president's talking last night as we dive into what actually happened. First of all, let's deal with the affordability issue. And again, if you're listening, if you're just tuning in, the way I want to do this is, as a student of politics who's run campaigns and the like, is let's talk about the basics. Let's try to find a way to strategize through the situation. We have time to do it. So let's begin with affordability. We can't be dismissive of people's concerns about affordability because that's what the Democrats did. Start there. You can't be dismissive of it. And the president went from saying affordability is BS, a BS issue conjured by the Democrats, to, okay, you don't need $30. That sounds like he's asking Americans to sacrifice or cut back. You may think that's good public policy, but it doesn't sell to the public. The American public is long used to cheap stuff. And if you want to get them out of the habit of cheap stuff, you got to have a real conversation with them about it. If you think consumerism is bad, you have to respect the American public. Now, listen, I say all the time, people are stupid, and I stand by it. People are stupid. But you get voters in the ballot box, and they occasionally have profound wisdom. For example, in 2024, they rejected the Democrats who began lecturing them on affordability and telling them life was actually good. You're just ungrateful. And they put in Donald Trump and the Republicans. For Donald Trump and the Republicans to now essentially embrace the Democrats' talking points from last year isn't the way forward. So one thing you can do, and it's what Donald Trump has to a degree done, and that is still blame Joe Biden. What we know from all of the special elections, and we know from the data from the special elections, including the exit polling, is that voters are more and more blaming Republicans. The easiest solution is the one that's not going to happen. And it's the one leaving a lot of Republican political consultants pounding their heads on their desks. I have this morning on my flight down from Atlanta to Jacksonville. Yeah, I had to fly. I realize it's a 4-hour drive from my house, but there's a lot going on. So I flew down. Spent an hour on the plane texting different political consultants I know around the country. All of them are expecting annihilation next year. And almost to a person, they said if you could just convince the president to declare victory on tariffs and drop them, the economic stimulative effect would be offset. Because why? We have gas now below $3 a gallon. You get rid of the tariffs, you bring down all the grocery store prices, combine that with cheap gas, you're going to have explosive growth. Instead, what we have is we have increased grocery prices, and the president lecturing Americans they only need $2 instead of $30, and the Treasury Secretary saying, actually, we have 4% growth out there, you just don't feel it in your pocketbook. That's not a winning message. That sounds very much like what the Democrats did last time. What the GOP needs to do is to intervene with the president behind the scenes. And they need to tell him, Mr. President, we know your advisors tell you that the tariffs are working, but the American public not only don't feel like they're working, they resent that you are insisting the tariffs are working. And then you say this, maybe, Mr. President, you've got 3 years and 2 months to go. Why don't you, for the next 6 months to a year, say, you know what? Tariffs worked. Let's get rid of them. We're going to have free trade now. We have fair trade. Now we're going to get to free trade. 0 for 0. Country goes to 0 tariffs with us. We go 0 tariffs with them. And we expand. And then after you get through the election, if you've decided that it hasn't worked, go back to the tariffs. But we need to win the election. People blame the tariffs. You get rid of the tariffs. You say the tariffs won. Not that you're getting rid of them, but that they worked. And now because they've worked, we can go to free trade with countries who want to partner with us, except China. No China. Everybody else. just do this through the end of the election. Put them back on after the election if you want to put them back on after the election. But right now, you got to mitigate. You got to have a mitigation strategy. That's one thing they can do. Another thing they can do is you get rid of Kristi Noem, which is in the works, and you go with Tom Homan and ICE over Border Patrol. Now, you need to understand this because this is something the American media that hates them all so much is not able to nuance correctly, is not able to report correctly. Tom Homan and ICE want to prioritize deportations. They want to start with the criminal elements. Then they want to go to the gangbangers. They want to go to the people who have been arrested but not yet convicted of crimes. And they want to go to the people who came here in the last 4 years, the massive wave of Biden illegal immigration. That's their order. That's who they're looking for. They're not looking for the abuelas who've been here for a long time. They're not looking for the kids who've been here forever, the dreamers who came here when they were 2. They're not looking for those people. You may want to look for those people, but just follow along here. Show that you are engaged in a deliberative order, and you keep the Hispanic coalition with you because they agree with you. Get rid of the gangbangers. Get rid of the criminals. Get rid of the people who came here during the Biden wave of illegal immigration. Get rid of them. And then once you've gotten rid of them and the midterms are over, you've preserved your support, then go back to getting everybody else if you want to. You can say, screw the coalition, now let's get them all out. But between now and the election, focus on the gangbangers, the criminals, the people who came here in the last 4 years. Don't round up the Cubans in South Florida. Don't round up the kids, the dreamers who are now 30 and they came here when they were 2. Focus on the others. You've now mitigated the tariff issue. You've mitigated the Hispanics in your coalition and you've held them in. And those 2 things will be more substantive than anything else. 3. You focus on another tax cut with reconciliation. You got an opportunity to do another one. Focus on another tax cut. Get your Republicans together on Capitol Hill. Do a business side oriented tax cut to incentivize the hiring of individuals. And you know what you could do that would even be popular, I think? This is what I think. Now, this is pure speculation. I am literally bending over and pulling this out of, places where bad thoughts tend to come from, but I think it's a good thought. Y'all, I'm just spitballing here. I really am pulling this out of my rear end. You restructure the tax code so that companies that are replacing human beings with AI get penalized. Do that. You restructure the tax code. You provide an economic incentive for hiring human beings and an economic disincentive for applying AI. And you make that a campaign issue. And you do it before the election. You are protecting the jobs of Americans. In fact, you're protecting the white-collar people who've decided you're too nuts, and suddenly you're there protecting their jobs. You've added now to your coalition. Some of them are going to be, thank you for saving my job. You do have this wave of the Fortune 100 in particular. They are tossing people, replacing them with AI. You provide a tax incentive for companies to hire humans and a tax disincentive for offloading them for AI so that a company is able to offload them and replace them with AI, but those companies are going to have to do the calculation that the return on investment, even with the tax disincentive, is still better. And if so, let the company do it. But otherwise, incentivize hiring not just human beings, but American citizens. There's your good idea. Pulled out of the ether, delivered to you across the nation. I know who listens in the White House right now. I know you're listening, and you know it's a good idea. Do that. And then stand up to China. Don't give China the NVIDIA chips. Behind the scenes, Republicans are at the White House right now furiously lobbying him to change his mind on China. We'll actually get to that in the next hour. They're not our friend. But for now, minimize who you're deporting, focus on the last 4 years and the criminals and the gangbangers. Restructure the tax code to provide incentive to hire humans and disincentive to hire AI, to replace them with AI. Be aggressive on China. And be smart on be smart on immigration. Get rid of the tariffs for right now too. Pause the tariffs. And, you know, the messaging for the president is actually very good messaging for him to say, listen, I promised you not just free trade, but fair trade. That's why he wanted the tariffs. Remember, he wanted to restore manufacturing to the country, which actually isn't happening. Layoffs are going up and manufacturing costs are going up because of the tariffs on steel and aluminum. These companies are laying people off. So what you do is you say, I promised you fair trade and free trade. We've now got fair trade. We've cut all these deals with all these countries, and now I'm willing to challenge them. If you go zero for us, we'll go zero for you. Fire up the economy with fair free trade. And that's what it is. Donald Trump can literally say no other president has done anything like this to get to fair free trade. We've had free trade and they've taken advantage of us, and now they're not taking advantage of us. We're going 0 for 0 on tariffs. And the economic output of the American people can flow through to them. And then do one more thing. Continue to provide disincentives for pharmaceutical companies to manufacture the raw resources for drugs in China. There's one other thing you can do that you should do behind the scenes, which is very important, and that is the Japanese have started a rare earth mineral supply chain that bypasses China. We need the American government to learn what Japan did. We've got to study what Japan did on the rare earth minerals, because Japan is one of the only countries on the planet now that is sourcing its rare earth minerals outside of China with global partnerships to bypass China. China's upset about it, and yet the Japanese figured out how to do it. We need to figure out what the Japanese figured out and do that. But start with getting rid of tariffs, having a logical consistency to deportations, be firm on China, and promise the American public that the tax code will incentivize hiring humans and disincentivize replacing them with AI. You start there. You stop this silly talking point about you only need $2, not 30. You only need 2 pencils, not 50. Stop telling people that farmers are so wealthy because of tariffs, we're going to bail them out. That's a logical inconsistency people can spot from a mile away. Instead, you tell people we get it on affordability. We had to impose the tariffs to get to fair trade. We're now ready for free trade. And you go from there. Once you do that, you should be good to go. And you can fire up the economic engine of the country. 877-973-7425. It's Eric Erickson coming from Jacksonville, Florida today. We'll be right back. We got the audio fixed so I can play you the sound bites. The phone number here as well. I'll take your phone calls the next hour. 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, here's the talking point that the president probably doesn't need to bring up.
And with our historic tariffs, steel production is roaring back. We're building steel mills all over the country, and U.S. Steel is coming back at a level never thought possible before. And I was up. And I was up here and with the workers and with Selena. Do you know Selena? Does everybody know? And with some other people. We were up with some great people. And we spent the whole day, and they were determining whether or not they wanted to make which one of the deals. I went to the workers. I said, which one do you like? We picked the right one. As I said before, billions of dollars they're spending. And the steel workers are doing phenomenally better. I think you're going to do better than you've ever done before. You were losing all of your steel. If we didn't have tariffs, you would have no steel. We wouldn't have one steel mill anywhere in the United States. And that would be really bad for, Scott, national security. The one thing you need steel. You know, you can give up certain products. You can give up pencils. Because under the China policy, you know, every child can get 37 pencils. They only need 1 or 2, you know. They don't need that many. But you always need steel. You don't need $37 for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice, but you don't need $37. So we're doing things right. We're running this country right.
That's just not a compelling talking point to people who are struggling. And by the way, there are ways to preserve the steel industry in the country without using the tariffs. And you know what's happened is the domestic steel industry has driven up its prices because of the tariffs. Why? Because now if it costs more to import, the domestic steel producers have raised their costs and still kept it less than what the tariffed steel is. So our costs domestically have gone up, and the president has actually tried to bully them into backing down, and they haven't done it. But the doll and the pencil stuff, that doesn't resonate with an American family that's struggling right now because they feel like they've had a financial setback. You may disagree with the consumerism in the country, but you can't make the case that it's bad now because you never walked people into the conversation. You never did the intervention with them where they needed to. It's like with the farmer situation.
Wanted to try and negotiate. Some countries played a little cute. And we just gave them, right out of a tariff money, cost us nothing, right out of the hundreds of billions that we've taken in, we gave the farmers a little help, $12 billion, and they are so happy. And all they want is a level playing field. And now it's happening. And the tariffs are making them rich. It's going to be, you're going to see what happens over the next 2 years. It's like
the tariffs are making them rich. You're going to see what happens over the next 2 years. We're giving them $12 billion. I think most Americans see we got to fix the president's message. The policies too. Don't think it's just message, but let's start with the message at least. Now, my message for you, if you want to save money on a computer, you want managed IT services that are reasonable for your company so you're not losing money on in-house six-figure sales, is you go to visioncomputers.com, where if you get managed IT for yourself or for your company, per computer, every employee gets a special phone number they can call and talk to an actual human being. They don't have to do an AI chatbot. And the computers can be managed by Vision Computers, and your employees can be great at their jobs. Keep your productivity and your uptime, minimize your downtime. Everybody gets that phone number they can call. Vision can even remote in and help you. They can build you great computers. And by the way, if they build your computers, the managed IT stuff, it comes with the computer. If they build the computer for you. So if you're in the line for new computers for your company, let Vision build them and get their IT services, get their support. They're world class. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Tell them Eric sent you. You can save even more money. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com.